What's going on, everybody, and welcome to Light Tackle Week. So this week we're going to be dropping videos every day, and we have a star-studded cast. We're going to be covering everything you need to know about light tackle fishing in the Chesapeake. So this is all going to be leading up to our big light tackle sales event on Saturday, April 13th. Make sure you guys come out. And for full details on everything that entails, visit our website at anglersannapolis.com. So today we're joined by, of course, star-studded cast. Griffin and Drew from Griffin's Guide Service. We're excited to have you guys, and you guys are also Shimano Pro staffers, so that's awesome. We're going to hit this from a couple different angles. So we're going to be talking today about some of the other fish, right, that we're going to target out there for light tackle and these kind of species that are growing in popularity. And one of them is Cobia. It's been popular for a while, but definitely more with trolling, people pitching eels and stuff. So I really like this angle of light tackle fishing for Cobia, right? So I'm a regular guy. I fish in the Upper Bay. I fish lots of striped bass. So if I'm going south for Cobia, short of going south and trolling, right, I don't have a lot of other things I'm thinking about. If I see one, I'm going to try and catch it. So let's talk a little strategy about how are we going to find these Cobia, and more where are we going to find them?
So you're going to want to, seeing them where you're going to see them the most. I say it all the time. You've probably heard it before. Fishy areas. Ledges, over oyster beds, oyster reefs, artificial reefs, any kind of structure. When you do see them, casting to them and making the right cast without spooking them is very important.
Okay.
So you need to be able to cast far, you need to have a rod ready and a lure ready, and you're going to cast out. You need to lead the fish, bring it back across their face. You're not going to bring it right to their face, because what bait fish is going to swim right out of Cobia, right? That's not very natural. That's not very natural. So you're kind of going to want to cross them and bring it back across their face without swimming directly at it.
Yeah.
And lures, picking the right lures for that is key. Drew's actually really good at pulling them off of structure, so he could talk a little bit about finding structure and how to jig them up off the bottom.
Yeah, so we got our handy dandy map here, right? So we are like, we're definitely going to get into the lures and attacking that. But again, we want to find these Cobia first. So I think like the sight casting part of it, right? Let's say it's windy day. They're just not coming. They're just not coming on top in general. But so like, what are you going to do, Drew, to try and pin these fish? You guys are talking about structure. Is that really? We're bouncing.
That is the game, finding something that sticks out or something that's going to hold bait. That's why those fish are there. They're there to feed and, hide a little bit. So you're looking for major ledges, even your major channel ledges, but even these secondary ledges that can go up inside, like up in here, there's going to be bait holding in there. There's going to be cobia waiting there to eat.
Yeah.
So, but the other thing is the unnatural structure. There's plenty of local reefs, wrecks. They're all going to hold bait, which are all going to hold cobia, which you can vertically jig or cast and jig and pull fish off that you wouldn't see, regardless of the conditions.
You're probably not going to mark those fish either.
Okay.
So that's just being confident in the area you're fishing and fish it hard. Jig the bottom, be in contact with the bottom. If you do mark them, sometimes they'll be cruising. Sometimes they'll be cruising about halfway up. If you do mark them halfway up, you can always bring your lure up, but typically jigging the bottom's a great place to be, and always have that pitch rod ready.
Right.
Because if you're fishing those areas, you might
circle the boat sometimes.
Yeah, they might just start swimming around the boat on the surface, and you'll see them. So always have a rod ready to go.
That's awesome. So, right, we want to hit these structure areas, these areas where really there's just other fish. Right. So you guys, would you say this is more you're bouncing from spot to spot, or will you kind of methodically move your way, see what you read? I think those are kind of two different strategies we all have. Like, hey, is it worth slowly going from here to here, or do I just want to go here, 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 here?
I would work these areas really hard.
Okay, gotcha.
Definitely jig them really hard. If your goal is to go out and jig up a cobia or find a cobia, it's a windy day, you're going to want to spend some time on those reefs. There's a lot of structure and little ledges and everything. These reefs, artificial reefs, if we're going to talk artificial reefs, they usually put them in an area that's already fishy.
Right.
So they're already on a ledge, or they're already on lumps and humps. So you work those areas over really well. you're going to catch more fish with lines in the water.
Yeah.
You can't catch a cobia with a dry lure. So work them hard. And if you just don't see it right, maybe it's conditions, maybe it's tide. I like to fish for them at the end of an outgoing tide.
Okay.
For current. But you know how sometimes you just need the condition to change a little bit.
Yeah.
And things will go right. So if you don't get them right away, keep working at it. It's not time to just pack up and go 20 miles down the bay, because they're probably going to be there if you're there at the right
If
time.
something's not working at a spot, don't move to another spot that has that same current that just didn't work where you were. You're better off staying where you were, grinding through another current phase and seeing when they actually ate there than chasing bad current.
I think it's also good that we talk about timing.
Yeah.
As far as the seasonal timing, we start to see them in July, and all the way through September can be one of the best times to catch cobia in the bay, especially up towards the middle part of the bay. So if you're around in those times, there's usually cobia swimming around that structure.
Nice. So the cobia, you were saying you don't read them a lot of times on your depth finder. Is that what I kind of heard?
Very. I mean, we will, but there's been a lot of times we've caught cobia without marking anything, and we're just there jigging because
The bait's
there's
there.
structure.
And the structure.
Yep.
Gotcha. So are you usually finding these fish in bigger schools, or it's mostly picking a few here, a few there?
There's a lot. They swim a lot of times. 1 or 2, 3 here, there. Later in the year, you're going to find bigger schools of them. Sometimes they even look like drum schools. So later in the year, they're going to start schooling up before they head out the bay. But typically in the heat of the summer, you're not going to find many of them.
So usually if you caught 1 or 2 out of a spot middle of summer, you may as well move on to your next spot later in the fall. You could really stay on them.
They're going to be swimming through.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
check in on their structures.
Yeah.
They're roaming.
Yeah.
So, but you're not gonna. It's not like you're gonna be totally relying on your electronics to say, "Oh, I've got 50 cobia right here." It's
Right.
gonna be.
So it definitely sounds like it is more, you got to really work these areas over and give them proper time.
You got to fish it hard.
Like just moving around all day isn't gonna necessarily buy you bread.
Catching a cobia is not a gimme in the bay.
Yeah.
It's not a gimme. Every once in a while, you'll see them up top, and they'll eat anything, right?
Right.
But most of the times, you're going to work for a cobia, especially on light tackle.
Nice, nice, good to know stuff. So let's get into it then. Like again, we've now found the fish. Hopefully, we're working this structure. So let's talk about how we're gonna fish for these guys.
All right. So if we're jigging, I'm going to probably use 1.5 ounce. Again, we're talking 30 to 20 feet. I'm going to probably use a 1.5 ounce GI jigs. Make sure it's the HD hook, because those cobia fight really hard. And we're going to pair that with a diesel minnow, 7-inch diesel minnow, or the Streaks XL. They love the Streaks XL. Everything loves chartreuse. Now, if we're casting and we got a rod ready, I said we need to have a pitch rod ready. For that fish that's swimming on the surface, you need a bait that's heavy enough to be able to throw really far, because you don't want to have to get too close to that fish and spook it. You want to be able to throw a lure way out and get it to swim across their face. So our go-to is a 1 ounce HD GI jigs. We use the 1 ounce. It's perfect to be able to throw it really far, but also light enough that you can swim it across the surface and it doesn't get out of the strike zone. If that fish is swimming on the surface and you've got a bait that's swimming 10 foot down, you're not going to catch it.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to work it and jig it right back below the surface and really get their attention. And this will do it. Pair that with the diesel minnow again. It's our go-to.
Nice.
Drew's got a secret bait that he likes.
So I like these when you're seeing them up high. It's a Yozuri slow sinking twitch bait in peanut bunker color. It's extremely natural for our regions of the bay, and you can cast it an actual mile. It doesn't look like it, but you can really send this thing. But since it's slow sinking and you're seeing these fish, they might be on top or only 2 feet down. You can really suspend this bait in the water column as long as you need to keep. I mean, you can just stop it in front of that fish, and you see him just sit there, and it won't sink out its way. And if it does, you just pop it back up real slow, and it just stays in the strike zone forever. And it just looks like one single injured bunker on top of the water.
I mean,
So,
that thing actually
yeah.
looks like, if you work that thing right, it actually looks like a bunker.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd eat that.
Yeah. That's nice too, like you said, being able to stop it
Yeah,
and
you can
really
really suspend
control.
it in the strike
There aren't many
center
baits
so
you can
long as
do
you-
that. That's awesome.
Like the
That's
paddle tail will
awesome.
sink out too quick a lot of times.
There's a lot of times when if you do see cobia and you're fishing for them, they will go down. You'll lose them, and you might think that they're gone. Don't pull your baits out. Let them fall. Let them jig. If you got one of these on, let it sit there. Those cobia are probably going to come back. They're very, very suspicious, right? They're always going to
Okay.
check out the boat. I've heard multiple stories. I've seen it myself where we're just floating out in the middle of the bay eating a sandwich, right? Lunch
Yeah.
break, and all of a sudden the cobias start swimming around
Yeah.
the boat. So
Just a big
don't give
bit.
up on them.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Guys, these are great tips. Thanks you guys for stopping by and doing this video. So Steve is actually going to be here for the event April 13th from 7 to 1. So like we mentioned before, Steve is also a Shimano pro staffer. So you can pick his brain on rods, reels, combos, lures, baits, all that kind of stuff. We're going to be running a great sale for the event. So we're going to have a rod and reel trade-in. Bring an old rod, reel, whatever. It can be a kiddie rod. You're going to get an extra 10% off on your rod, reels, and combos. That's going to be in addition to the 15% we're running off of the regular sale. So that'll be 25% off, be the biggest discounts of the year. And again, we'll have all the stuff Steve uses on his boat and whatnot.
Yep.
So definitely make sure you stop by, and thank you guys again for coming in and doing a video with us.
Can't wait.